Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3365. Today's date is 19th of March 2025. It's been almost like 11 p.m. 11:12. Okay, so what exactly happened today? Nothing really at all. Been really usual day, and yeah. All right. So we just directly jump into the question. Okay. Yeah. Let's go. Let's do this. Okay. Yeah. Question is, how do the smallest detail contribute to the larger picture of understanding? Okay. Yeah. That is really good question, by the way. All right. So what exactly is this question? Um. Okay. So basically, this question is actually emphasized on how much really important as smallest detail. Okay. Yeah. um, and how it kind of like a matter a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna give you my kind of like a something, I don't know, yeah, like um okay, first of all, let me clarify about this question. Okay, yeah, this question is actually kind of like a something come from like a couple of days ago. I was kind of like somebody watching the web series named Demons of Leonardo. It's based on Leonardo da Vinci. If you don't really know who is that person, this is the person who makes the world famous painting Mona Lisa. And he is not just a painter, he is a master of multiple things. He is like a really great. Okay, yeah, the way that his mind his work was like, I was really influenced. And while watching that particular show, I was also really influenced by his thought process, Leonardo's thought process. So I wanted to think like him. I wanted to think like Leonardo da Vinci. So I went to the chat GPT and asked that ki suggest me such a question so that I would think like Leonardo. So this is one of those questions. Now question says that ki how do the smallest thing contribute to the larger picture of understanding? Okay. Basically, is this thing, if I'm trying to think like Leonardo's point of perspective, then I realize that he emphasized in detail a lot. Okay, yeah. Basically, let's take an example of Mona Lisa painting. Okay, yeah. Mona Lisa painting is a kind of like a something such a painting which is like a really incredible from every point of perspective. The hidden detail, the smile, the background, the veil, the everything is look kind of like a something that it kind of like a tell us some sort of message, but unfortunately it represent with, I don't know how do I supposed to say. It's a kind of like a something a picture that in outer point of perspective means like that कि if you see that particular photo as from normal people point of perspective, it's a kind of like a classic portrait. That's it, a kind of like a something a woman who is kind of like a something sitting, and it's a portrait picture. Oh yeah, from every angle it's look really good, beautiful, and really great. But if you look that particular photo in scientific point of perspective, it's a very kind of like a creepy or very kind of like a something that, I don't know. What do you mean by that? It means by that ki look at her smile. Okay, if you don't really like just go to the Google, search about Mona Lisa painting and see the painting. Okay, yeah, look at the smile of Mona Lisa. Is this smile is kind of like a something very weird? What do you mean by weird? It doesn't really look weird to you. Yeah, right. Why? Because of that ki this is kind of like a something portrait photo, sorry, portrait painting. Okay, yeah, but at that time it's kind of like a something weird. At that time, what do you mean by that? Okay, yeah, let me tell you. So you have a mobile phone and you take so many photos of portrait of your family member, the people around you. Yeah, and when you took the photo, what is actually photo is actually happen is that it capture that particular moment. Okay, yeah, means like that the photo that you took is exactly exactly look like the person who is actually standing in front of the camera, right? Yeah. So basically is this thing, the camera is actually capture that particular moment which is exactly equal. But if you wanted to execute this thing in a painting, it kind of like a something very difficult. Yeah, why? Because painting required excellence, skills, and mastery of all those things. And after all those things, you won't be able to kind of like a something really execute that clarity. What do you mean by that? Okay, still not understand. Okay, you have mobile phone, take a photo of particular random guy, whoever the person in front of you, take the photo. Okay, yeah. Now see that photo and see that particular man. You kind of like a found very equal, means like that the photo and the particular man is kind of like a somebody look alike, really like. Now what should you supposed to do is that ki now keep that phone aside and try to draw that particular man in your canvas. And when you draw that thing, I'm pretty sure how good you are or how smart you are or how expert you are in painting, you won't be able to kind of like a something create as equal as it kind of like a something that photo. No, so that's why it kind of like a something different from photo to painting. A photo means like that it represent reality, a painting represent that a kind of like a something a little bit something animated or cartoonish stuff, not cartoonish, but you get it my point. Okay, yeah. So yeah, do you get it? Okay, now look at the painting of Mona Lisa. Okay, yeah. So when you see that particular painting, you haven't really kind of like a feel that it's a painting. You feel that ki this is kind of like a simply a real photo, somewhat. Okay, almost not exactly, but almost like a 70-80% of kind of like a somebody represent its photo. Why? Because of that ki it's that clear. Means like that when you see that Mona Lisa painting, it was so good, so good, so good that probably it's equivalent equal to the photo kind of stuff like that. Okay, you still not understand. Okay, yeah. Okay, so basically it's this thing. If I went, what exactly is this thing that ki when the Leonardo is kind of like a, let's take a hypothetical scenario. Okay, yeah. Leonardo is kind of like a drawing that particular painting of Mona Lisa. I went there. I have a camera. I came back from the future to the past. I have this mobile camera. I took the photo. Okay, yeah. And now basically is this thing, Leonardo done his painting and I took the photo. Okay, yeah. So basically, my photo is almost equivalent to the Mona Lisa because it's a photo, right? Yeah. Now, in other hand, painting is kind of like a something 70 to 80% equivalent to that reality, to that photo too. Okay, 70-80%. Like let's take 80%. Okay, yeah. So probably is this thing. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing. The Leonardo is kind of like a something he mastered in that painting such a way that it could represent exactly real kind of like a something photo, almost like a 70% real kind of like a something photo, which is at that time very unique and very something that ki mind boggling, literally mind boggling, because at that time photo was not invented. The photo is not even exist, the camera is not even exist. Camera was started exist from the 18th of century. Okay, yeah. 18th 19th of century probably, I'm not really sure, but yeah. And the painting, this painting was drawn actually from 16th of century, 16 or 15th of century, I'm not really sure, but yeah. So have you ever understand how much master it is, like how much Leonardo is kind of like a master of skill of painting, like it was really good. Okay, yeah. Now I want to emphasize on this particular smile. Okay, yeah. Look at her smile. Okay, yeah. When you see that particular smile, you kind of like a feel that it smile from every angle. What do you mean by that? Okay, yeah. Like basically is this thing. Um, you have your mobile phone. This Mona Lisa painting is on your mobile screen. Okay, yeah. What should you supposed to do is that look at this painting exactly in front of you. When you see that particular painting, you kind of like a see that particular smile, right? Yeah, this smile is kind of like a something really good. Okay, yeah. Now what should you supposed to do is that put that phone kind of like a something away means like that key kind of like a somebody left. Okay, yeah, on your left. And now try to see that particular painting. You kind of like a similarize that the smile is exactly equal when you saw that particular smile when that painting is in front of you. What I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to tell you is this thing: the smile that you are actually seeing on that Mona Lisa painting is kind of like a something always equivalent. It always kind of like a something is this thing that key, how do I supposed to say? Okay, it's a very difficult. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna give you example. All right, yeah. So there is a person in front of you, whoever the person in front of you, whoever like your mother, father, brother, daughter, whatever. Okay, look at that face. Okay, make sure that you have to look that particular face up front. Okay, yeah, means like that she is kind of like a something almost in front of you. Okay, yeah. Now see that particular smile. Okay, yeah. The smile or kind of like a lips, the structure of the lips. When you see that particular lips in front of in front of her, it look flat. It doesn't feel depth. Let me tell you one thing. The depth is kind of like a represent by the light. Okay, yeah. So make sure that the light is kind of like a focusing on her face. Okay, the person that you are kind of like a looking at. Okay, yeah. So basically, is this thing when you see that particular lips, it look flat. Okay, it looks really flat. Okay, yeah. Um, Flat. What is actually flat? A flat means like that. It doesn't really have any shadows because light is also kind of like in front of her, so doesn't really like it doesn't really have any shadows. So it doesn't really have any shadow means like that it doesn't really have any depth. Okay, yeah. So when it doesn't really have any depth, so it looks flat. Okay, yeah. It's a kind of like a some photographic technique. Okay, probably like I'm trying to teach you this photographic technique, but I'm trying as simple as I can. Okay, so that everyone could understand. All right, yeah. So now you see that particular person, you see that particular smile, the nose and the eyes. Okay, yeah. It looks flat because it doesn't really have any shadows. Okay, yeah. Now what should you supposed to do is that you have to be kind of like a something move left. Okay, yeah. Now you have to look that particular person from your left side. Okay, yeah. When you see that particular person in front of you from the left side, you kind of like a feel something very different. Means like that her lips are kind of like a look different, her nose, her eyes looks very different. Why? Because it's a kind of like a simply perception. Means like that when you change your perception from like in front of you from left, it kind of like a creates some sort of depth and shadows on your visual preference. And when you see that visual preference, it kind of like a feel something very different. Okay, yeah. It feels something that came. Okay, yeah. What should you supposed to do is that you take a photo. Okay, yeah. Like when you are in front of her, that particular person, take a photo that particular person. Okay, yeah. It looks flat. Now shift to the left and take a photo from the left angle. Now shift to the right, take a photo from the right angle. Okay, yeah. Now you have three photo, left, right, center. All right, yeah. Now what should you supposed to do is that try to compare all those three photos and what kind of like some changes that you are seeing. When you are kind of like seeing that particular changes, you've seen that when you see the photo from kind of like a something center, it look flat. Okay, yeah, it doesn't really have any shadows, nothing really at all. But when you see that particular photo from left to right, you kind of like a feel little bit of shadows, feel little bit of kind of like a only perception. Maybe just like that, the lips on the when you see that particular photo from the left angle, then right angle lips are kind of like a simply moving away. So when it is moving away, you are not seeing that particular moving away, like you are not seeing that particular kind of like a something lips, like it kind of like a hide from your perspective. Yeah, from the left point of perspective. Same goes with the right. Okay, when you see that particular photo from the right angle, left angle of lips are kind of like something hidden. Okay, yeah, same thing goes with the nose, eyes and everything. Okay, yeah, this is called kind of like a something perception. Okay, this is called kind of like a something perception, like when you see that particular same person photos from left to right and center, you kind of like a feel little bit of 3D perspective of that particular face. Okay, and when you see that 3D perspective of that particular face, you kind of like a feel little bit of different, like from center it flat, from left it kind of like adds some shadows and things like that. Okay, yeah, which is kind of like a something very common. Okay, yeah, yeah, you doesn't feel anything kind of like a something very different, like all those three photos are kind of like a something very common. Why? Because we used to see that particular people around you in 3D. Means like that ki when we see the people around us, we see people in 3D. We are not seeing the people in 2D. No, we are seeing the people in 3D. Sometimes we see the people in kind of 3D, means third dimension, XYZ. Okay, yeah, means like that ki you seen that particular, like anyone, whoever the person around you, you actually seen that particular people from all this perspective, stuff like that. Okay, yeah, this is same thing happened with the photos too. Okay, yeah, because photos are kind of like a creating depths and everything. Okay, yeah, when you executing this thing in a painting, it is far difficult, literally far difficult, like almost almost like basically why is difficult, because I'm the graphic designer and basically I do understand how much difficult was that. Okay, yeah, means like that na ki when I kind of like make a some sort of lips, like when I kind of like create the design of the lips in my Photoshop. Okay, yeah, it kind of like a look flat, but when I try to see, it's kind of like a look something really weird. It's this it's something really that key, it doesn't really match it felt really awful. Okay, yeah, like basically this thing in my Photoshop, I try to kind of like create as good as realistic as possible as lips, but it look very not good because I'm not that master enough. Okay, yeah, so in the painting or in kind of like a simply any graphic design or Photoshop technique, I'm not really sure, might be some people are doing this thing, but for me it's a very difficult. Okay, yeah, and by the way, I'm using Photoshop technique, which is also kind of like a something very far easier way to create the painting is a far difficult. Painting means like that you actually kind of like a paint everything from the scratch, from nothingness to kind of like a something. So I am really understand how much difficult was it. Means like that when you look at the smile of the Mona Lisa, it looks so real. It looks kind of like a something that a perfect, a kind of like a something that you kind of like a feel that key you've seen that particular photo in 3D, but that photo in 2D. But yeah, like the face is, yes, the veil and the shadow of her face is also kind of like a something giving the 3D perspective of that particular Mona Lisa face. But that painting is a 2D. It's a very kind of like a something illusion, but something that I don't know how to supposed to express this thing. Okay, yeah, like basically this thing na ki you actually seen that Mona Lisa painting millions of times. Okay, yeah, but you haven't really seen that particular painting in that detail. When you see that particular that painting in that detail, you realize that, oh my god. Okay, yeah, you try to emphasize the work of art of that particular painting was like, boy oh boy, Okay, and this actual painting was drawn by 400 year ago. Okay, yeah, which is like a master, dude. It's just like, okay, yeah. So what is the actually purpose of saying all those things? Okay, yeah, is because of that, in details, dude, in details. Okay, yeah, look at the design, look at the background, look at this particular painting, look at the stroke, look at, like, I don't know, yaar. Like, basically, when you see things in detail, you realize that, oh my god, like everything is kind of like a simply place in very perfect time, very perfect place. It's something that really, really beautiful, dude. Literally, just like that. Now, I don't have any kind of like a simply words to express this thing, but it's just like that. Now, Leonardo is a kind of like a somebody guy who is emphasized in details a lot, a lot, a lot. Okay, yeah. I also do kind of like a something make a design. Okay, yeah. Basically, I am a graphic designer. I make kind of like a something content about the graphic designing. I upload my content on YouTube platform. So I resonate kind of like a Leonardo's work a much more. Okay, yeah. And I understand how much it kind of like a something affect me a lot. I also make a graphic designing, and usually is this thing na ki for me I have to be upload two design per day. So that means I am kind of like a simply making that designing as minimalistic as possible as I can, because usually I like the minimalistic design. Okay, yeah. Uh, but sometimes na, okay, yeah, sometimes some design does really require some sort of add some sort of crowd or some sort of element. Okay, yeah. And when I'm trying to add some sort of element, it kind of like a something like that ki details are missing. Okay, yeah. And I don't know the detail. Yeah, I'm trying to add as much as detail as I can, but there is a one thing that I realize, that ki when I'm literally focus on detail, it it consume a time a lot, like literally a time a lot. Like a basically is this thing, um uh like for the Leonardo, okay, yeah, he draw that particular Mona Lisa painting in just couple of hours. Okay, yeah, yeah, couple of hours, like probably just like in 3 4 hour, Leonardo draw that particular Mona Lisa painting, just Mona Lisa, just without background, just kind of like a assembly painting. Okay, just kind of like assembly, just portrait. Okay, yeah. But what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, that I think that na Leonardo is like the painting that we are actually seeing as a Mona Lisa painting is not the first draft, probably. Yeah, why not? uh, because I think that na ki when you are focusing on like in details, it consumes so much amount of time, so much amount of time. And probably is this thing is because of that ki I, I don't know how do I supposed to explain. Like my hypothesis, or my I think I'm not really sure. I think, okay, yeah, I think that ki this is not the final. Sorry, this is not the kind of like a somebody first draft of Mona Lisa painting. No, probably is this thing na ki uh, Leonardo make multiple draft of Mona Lisa painting. What's a draft? A draft means like that attempt. Okay, means like that na ki the Mona Lisa girl is actually kind of like a sat in front of Leonardo. He draw that particular painting in just couple of hours. Okay, yeah, that's it. And then she went away. It's a kind of like a simply rough sketch. Okay, yeah, like basically you know now what's a rough sketch. A rough sketch means like that, a kind of like a outline of what exactly that particular girl. Okay, yeah. Now basically is this thing na ki Leonardo kind of like a simply make so many draft of Mona Lisa. Because let me tell you one thing na, the Mona Lisa painting that we are actually seeing is a perfection of art. Means like that ki this is kind of like a assembly painting that does really require a lot of failure attempts. Okay, failure attempt of creating that particular mastery or masterpiece. Okay, ah. So maybe like the painting that we are actually seeing today of Mona Lisa is not the first painting. It's a kind of like a something the final painting and the Mona Lisa has a kind of like a simply variable rough sketches of Mona Lisa painting, about sketches and smiles and nose and background, the veil, and then entire the way that she smiled. It's something that na ki Leonardo does it multiple times, like a multiple time he draw that particular painting. Okay, yeah, and multiple time it failed, multiple time it's this Mona Lisa painting does really requires lot of failure attempts. Okay, yeah, and after all those, and not just one or two, maybe so many failure attempt, Leonardo does it, and then after that, this kind of like a simply painting that he make the Mona Lisa painting. Okay, yeah, why does kind of like a something Leonardo fails? Like why do you think that ki Leonardo is a kind of like a something did a rough sketch of that? Okay, yeah, why? Okay, I seen the Leonardo's painting. Okay, yeah. The supper painting is actually kind of like a supper means like that. This is also another painting of Leonardo. In that particular painting, the Jesus and Mary Magdalene and other kind of like a something people around, they are kind of like a simply having breakfast. Okay, yeah, breakfast or kind of like a drinking a wine, or yeah. So basically, this painting is kind of like a simply having a good time of that particular Jesus. So it kind of like a represent that a supper painting. Okay, yeah, supper. Am I right? Like let me let me clarify. Am I right or wrong? Okay, yeah. Like I'm pretty sure the name of that painting is a supper. Supper. The SUP supper painting. Supper painting. No, no, no. The Last Supper. No, not. Okay, yeah. This painting, yes. The Last Supper. Yeah. Was actually artist by Leonardo. Yeah. Leonardo da Vinci. That is good. Okay, yeah. So look at this painting. This painting is a kind of like a something in center. We could see the Jesus. Okay, yeah. In his left side, we could see the Mary Magdalene. Okay, who is a Mary Magdalene? Okay, yeah. Um, okay. I like little bit of histories. Okay, yeah, and I do know little bit knows about who is Mary Magdalene. Okay, yeah, like okay, yeah. I basically this information that I have is because of that kind of like a something from YouTube videos, and yeah, probably. So it's not mine information. Okay, yeah. Mary Magdalene is a kind of like a something a woman that Jesus is like kind of like a something a girlfriend probably. Okay, yeah, but but like it's not na, like it's not like a basically Jesus is not like like I don't know, yeah. Also this information is actually come from not from me, it actually came from the um, YouTube videos and something like that. Okay, yeah. So probably don't blame me. Don't blame me. Okay, yeah. So we could see the kind of like a something on the left side. We could see the Mary Magdalene, and there are a couple of people around them. Okay, yeah. Now, see in this particular painting, the location is really wide important. Okay, yeah. So you actually see in that particular slab, upper slab, left slab, and right slab. Okay, yeah. So when you see that particular painting now, it's a masterpiece of that shadows. Like basically, the Leonardo is really good at shadows technique a lot. Like literally, okay, yeah. I'm actually okay. If you like, I wanted to be focused on this painting. If you're not seeing that particular painting, just go to the Google search about the supper, the Last Supper. Okay, yeah, Last Supper painting. Search about this. Go to the Google image, and we could see that particular painting of that Jesus and Mary Magdalene. All right, yeah. Now when you see that particular photo, when you see that particular painting, you kind of like a something, I'm trying to focusing on the left wall and right wall. The left wall is a kind of like a between shadows. Okay, yeah. The right wall, it kind of like a represent little bit of bright. Okay, yeah. This means that in the photography context perspective, the bright part of the painting, it represent that ki the light is actually came from the opposite side. Means like that na ki light is actually came from the left side, and it kind of like a something create the illusion of that ki light is actually came from left, to right, so that's why right painting is literally kind of like a something very bright as compared to left wall. Okay, yeah. But the problem is that now in that particular painting, that back of the wall is a kind of like a something kind of like a something balcony, and there are three windows. Okay, yeah. And basically these windows, in that particular windows we could see that it's a kind of like a something like that, a mountains or something like that. Okay, yeah. Let me tell you one thing also in photography point of perspective. Okay, yeah. If I am there, okay, yeah, a- and I wanted to capture this photo, okay, yeah, what kind of like a photo that I would be a capture? Okay, yeah, probably there is a one thing that I'm gonna really I'm gonna focusing on the back of that particular painting, the back of that wall. We could see the mountain on three holes. We'll not gonna see in when I if I take the photo. Why? Because let me tell you one thing now, the inside basically is this thing now. Okay, yeah. Like how do I supposed to explain this? It's a kind of like a something so much in detail as a photographic point of perspective. Okay, yeah. Like you have to be really kind of like a something photographer. Then you might understand about this supper painting a lot. Okay, yeah. Okay, what exactly is this thing? Okay, yeah. So okay, I'm trying to be kind of like explain this thing as simple as possible as I can. Okay, yeah. So what should you supposed to do is that go to the room, okay, any room, okay, yeah. Make sure that it's a day, not night, okay, yeah. And in that particular room, there should be kind of like a something windows or kind of like a something door, okay. Make sure that open that window or open that door, okay, yeah. At least open that window or door, either one or two, okay, yeah. Now take a like a step back and kind of like a take a photo of that particular room and as also open window. Okay, yeah. When you took that photo, the sensor of the camera is actually kind of like a creating some sort of illusion to get the priorities of what's important for means like that na, ki important in the room means like that ki I'm capturing photo of that particular room, so that means the outside area of that room, make sure it's bright because of the sunlight and things like that. And why it's bright? Because it's a kind of like a something happen, because when you are exposing the light, it means kind of like a something exposing, because like you are taking a photo at kind of like a some room na, room is little bit dark, okay. So dark photo is kind of like a some sensor is kind of like a represent that the photo is become really dark, so make sure brighten up, so it kind of like a increase the exposure, so that make sure that we could see the room, okay, yeah. But while doing that particular thing, the background of that windows, okay, yeah, the background of the window is kind of like a exposed too much that we won't be able to see anything at all behind the windows, okay, or behind the kind of like something door. Why? Because too much expose of the light. Okay, yeah. So that means, okay, yeah, what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that ki, if I wanted to take the photo, I won't be able to see the behind of these three painting, the behind of these three hole. Like there is a mountain, I won't be able to see when I took the photo. Okay, yeah, but in the painting, they actually kind of like a put that thing. Why? Because in the painting there is no kind of like a something like sensor size, there is no kind of like a something exposure. It's a kind of like a something creativity that we are actually flourish through. Means like that ki a Leonardo is actually think that ki instead of kind of like a showing the exposure and things like that, make sure to draw some sort of mountains. All right, yeah. um at that time the exposure setting was not even kind of like a invented on that time, so probably Leonardo doesn't really know about the sensor size and the exposure and things like that. But what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, the light and light reflection. Okay, I means like that na, ki have you seen the center of that particular painting is bright up like a the Jesus, and the table is kind of like a something little bit bright. Okay, yeah. As compared to the people who are actually in kind of like a something left and right, they are literally kind of like a crowded over there, like there are almost like a 4 5 people are left and right side. But only in the center we could actually see the Jesus, which is actually in kind of like a something focus. Okay, yeah. And it is not really that much cluttered, we could see the entire photo of Jesus, like we could see the arms and his kind of like a something entire body, we could see that in very bright light. Okay, yeah. But other than that, the rest of the people are bitterly crowded. Okay, yeah, very 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 crowded too. Okay, so why I'm kind of like a somebody emphasizing on this painting, this painting is a kind of like a something really good with a kind of like a somebody in details. Okay, look at the details. Okay, the wine glasses, the breakfast, the bread, the tablecloth, the kind of like a background wall, left side, right side, the exposure of the left side, the exposure of the right side of wall, see the back of the wall, see the slab of the wall, see the kind of like a something, the clothes that they are actually wearing, see the paintings, see the kind of like a something colors. Okay, yeah, these are a kind of like a very faint color, but look at the color which is also really good. Okay, yeah, also is this thing, look at the blue color is also kind of like a something really good, but it kind of like a merge with the red. Okay, yeah, blue and red is both the color are kind of like a something such a color which kind of like a vibrant, like it kind of like a something something like that na ki red and blue is a kind of like a simply color which highlight a lot. Okay, yeah, which like it's a kind of like a simply black and white. Okay, means like that black and white are kind of like a simply opposite. This is kind of like a simply red and blue is not the opposite color, by the way. Like if I'm gonna kind of like a color wheel, then probably I'm gonna say blue, yellow and blue, like a basically opposite of blue is a yellow. Okay, yeah, and opposite of red is uh, opposite of red is I'm not really sure what's the opposite of the red color. Okay, yeah, but what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, blue and red, these are kind of like a two highlighting color. Okay, yeah, which kind of like a has its own different wavelength, and which kind of like a create its illusion of difference between the two objects. Okay, yeah, that's why we have kind of like a something red and blue and green, because these kind of like a something three source of light which is the mixture of all the millions of colors. Okay, yeah, means like that if I draw kind of like assembly any kind of like assembly painting, I really required only three colors, red, blue and green, RBG color, which means these are kind of like assembly main color, main source of color. Okay, main source of color means like that now all the color that we are actually seeing in this world, there are almost like a millions of color. Those are millions of colors are actually came from these three colors, red, blue and green. Okay, yeah, and basically is this thing na ki Leonardo doesn't really use any green color. Why? He can, but he didn't really use that green color much. He used orange, blue, red, and basically black and white. Okay, yeah, and which is also really good. Look at the design of the kind of like a something, the tablecloth. Okay, which is kind of like a little bit wrinkle. Okay, look at the any object which is actually put on that particular table, like the glass wine, the bread and the plates and everything, which is also really good. Also one of the thing that I wanted to mention over, look at the kind of like a some plate in front of the design. Okay, plate in front of the Jesus. Okay, yeah, that plate looks little bit of elliptical. Okay, yeah, which is also kind of like a something really good, which kind of like a resonate that Leonardo has its kind of like a something how something really information about the how do we see the stuff. Okay, see the stuff means like that na ki okay, it's really hard to explain. Okay, yeah, um uh, plate. Okay, imagine a plate. Okay, you see the plate when it's a goal, it's a circle. Okay, yeah, when you particular see the plate which is actually kind of like a put that particular plate in the table and kind of like a move away and try to see that particular plate, that plate looks like little bit of elliptical object. Okay, yeah, means like that every shape and kind of like a something shapes looks very different when you see that particular shapes in different angle. Okay, and this is what kind of like a something Leonardo is actually master in that thing, because he understand that na ki when in reality when you see the particular plate in particular angle, it might look very different, mostly elliptical. This is what kind of like a simply elliptical. See the bread which also represent like a wine glasses. I don't know, like look at the design and everything, which is like a basically is this thing now Leonardo emphasizing details a lot, like a really lot. Like this supper, the last supper painting was kind of like a something made of details, like a basically it's not focus on only one thing, it's actually focus on multiple things, multiple stuff, like a in this particular in this particular dining table, basically there are people who are actually kind of like somebody arguing about something. Like the right side of the people are kind of like somebody arguing about something. The left side of people are kind of like a feeling little bit of full and emphasize. The center is the Jesus is kind of like a representing peace and calm. Okay, yeah, it's a kind of like a somebody telling the kind of like a somebody human perception about the world. Means like that some people are kind of like somebody angry at somewhere, some people are kind of like a good at somewhere. And basically it's this thing, the normal people means supposed to be kind of like if you want it to be kind of like a something like a Jesus, means like that you have to be in center, not in the left side of the people, not in the right side of the people. Make sure that you are kind of like a somebody straight and center, so that you could supposed to be see the rest of the world from your point of perspective. It's really good. Okay, yeah. And basically this thing, this painting is kind of like a represent that key. It's emphasize on details, and that details like, my god, really good. All right, yeah, I should supposed to be end here. Okay, it's been really good, really great. So this is what I'm thinking about this design and stuff like that. All right, yeah. But I'm really tired to talk right now. Thank you.